Today we have a crazy story of how a Redditor messed up by submitting a video for a job interview without anything on from the waist up. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, Today I Messed Up made someone realize they wasted 15 years of their life. Back in 2010, I worked next door to a mall. The cheapest lunch option was this kebab stall, and a few doors down was a fancy tea place that always handed out free tasters. So, almost every day, I would grab a kebab and a free cup of tea for lunch. The girl at the tea counter, Emily, a friendly 20-something, eventually recognized me. Usually we would chat briefly before I head back to work. After 2 years, I quit that job and moved interstate. Fast forward to yesterday, I had a work meeting nearby and decided to revisit the old mall. Nostalgia hit hard. I went up to the food court, hoping to see the kebab stall, but it was gone. Replaced by a fish and chip shop, I wandered over to where the tea place used to be, and to my surprise, it was still there. Even more surprising, Emily was still behind the counter. I said hi, reintroduced myself, and to my amazement, she remembered me. Back then, she mentioned that she was studying law at night school, so I asked how that went and half-joked about whether she's the tea shop's secret owner or the tea shop must pay really well since she'd been there 15 years. I also asked for a free taster again, for old time's sake. Today, I stopped by to say goodbye before my flight tomorrow, but when I got there, her supervisor told me Emily had quit abruptly just yesterday. She was my best worker, first to open, last to leave, asking me if I know her well because she left crying and screaming about wasting her life away. Woof. What a range of emotions in those couple of days. OP goes back and they're like, oh, I'm so nostalgic. It's nice to see a familiar face and that this place is still here. And then they come back the next day only to find that exact place now on fire and like they were a foreign traveler that gave some horrendous uncurable virus to them. They might as well have been screaming to OP, you should have never have come back here. Captain Saturn commented, this might be the turning point in her life. You never know. Hope it works out for Emily. Kangaratan replied, sometimes that's what it takes. I was stuck in a rut working in retail through my entire 20s. It took getting fired for a really BS reason to force me to go after what I wanted to do. Now it's 10 years later and I make 3 times what I was making at my retail job and I'm stuck in a different rut. But hey, at least I'm comfortable now. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of how Redditors severely messed up, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, Today I messed up by asking my sister, female 29, what day our parents' anniversary is. I, female 23, asked my sister, female 29 yesterday what day our parents, female 57 and male 59, anniversary is. She stared blankly at me and asked what I meant. I reiterated that I was curious when the anniversary of my parents' marriage is. She looked at me like I was stupid and told me our parents are divorced. Apparently they divorced about 2 years ago, and I was never told. She said they divorced because they both fell out of love and were constantly annoyed with each other. I've been incredibly busy with college the last 4 years, and the only times I've seen them was for holidays and some of the summer. I have an apartment and I've spent my summers with friends other than occasional meetups and days out with my mom and sister. My dad and I have never been close, so it's not like he would have told me, and my mom isn't a very social person when it comes to feelings. Has this happened to anyone else? Well, I definitely can't say that I necessarily relate to this story. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would feel like it would be a relatively rare situation to have your parents divorce 2 years ago and you just never find out about it. Basically, what it boils down to is you almost would have to never talk to your parents for a multi-year span. And even then, you would still have to avoid hearing it through the grapevine with any other family or any other friends of the family and whatnot. I mean, it's not the craziest thing I've ever heard, but I just would be shocked if there were all too many people being like, yeah, that happened to me too. Mass Casualty commented, I think I know why they got divorced. I think your family has communication issues. Zadiria Gelm commented, my cousin and his now ex-wife got divorced. No one told me. I found out about a year later. He then remarried. I didn't even know he was seeing anyone. I found out about 3 months after the wedding. He then got divorced again. No one told me. 11 months later, I ran into his wife and she told me. Awkward. My family extended always seemed very close before this. Our next story is, Today I messed up by hitting on my married coworker. My coworker, a guy in his late 30s, is the nicest, funniest guy I have probably ever worked with. I was new to the job, and around a month ago, he showed me around the whole place, made jokes to lighten me up, and overall made me feel so much at ease. During this month, we became quick work friends, and he really helped me out in settling in. I was debating whether he liked me or not because he was very nice to me and went out of his way to bring me things, such as extra coffee and things like that. So I just decided to take a chance and flirt with him at a work party. He doesn't wear a ring. I was slightly tipsy and definitely laughed a lot more than I would normally at his jokes, among other things, when a beautiful woman walked in, apologizing for being late, and then they kiss, and I immediately wanted to end myself. I looked at him comically open-mouthed and said, "You're married?" He looked at me and he said, "Yes, very married." This happened yesterday and I have to go back to work tomorrow. I know it isn't the end of the world, but it's quite mortifying. Update, I'll make this short. Went to work and didn't see him until lunch, which was not very unusual. I think I was slightly awkward, but tried really hard to not be awkward, but not sure how much that worked. I think I said something like, "Last night was crazy, how's your head," or something, and he didn't mention anything at all about what happened. Although, unlike some of you who said that he might not be aware of the flirting, I think he just gave me an out. I was extra careful to not show any hint of flirtation, which might have made me seem weird, but will not think of that. Now, I'm gonna be honest, if I'm at a work party and some girl is there and she's laughing at my jokes and trying to make me feel like I'm killing it, I'm probably just gonna think, "Man, I must be really funny tonight." Or on the other hand, just think like, "Oh, they're just a person who likes to laugh a lot or laughs very easily." Like, I have relatives that are very easy to make laugh at like the easiest things, so I kind of get that impression sometimes. I mean, I'm just not likely to see that kind of behavior and think, "Oh, she wants to spend time with me." MD28 USMC commented, "Girls think their flirting is so obvious. If a girl laughed more than normal at my jokes, I would just think that particular joke or whatever was extra funny." Avacron replied, "Particularly when it's someone you just met or it's your first time drinking with them. How are we supposed to know if it's their normal laugh? Maybe they just get giggly when they drink." I always assume the most innocent explanation because it's a lot safer than assuming a girl is flirting and being wrong. OP, he probably didn't even notice you were flirting. If you start acting weird, avoiding him, changing behaviors, that's the real freak up. Our next story is, today I messed up by calling a smoothie bowl fat. This happened a few weeks ago. My husband and I frequent a smoothie place on the weekends after working out. A few Saturdays ago, as per usual, we stopped by to get our post-workout snack. They know us enough that we all clearly recognize each other when we go in, and our order is always the same. A smoothie for me and a smoothie bowl for my husband. We saw our order was almost ready, so we walked towards the counter as the lovely, larger lady making our smoothies was trying to put a lid on my husband's bowl. As I got closer, I noticed she had really hooked it up and had loaded the bowl to the brim, so I said, "Ooh, she's a fat one." But then the lady suddenly looked a bit flustered, and I thought it was weird, but shrugged it off, and as we grabbed our goods and turned to leave, I could see my husband was fighting for his life, and when we got outside, he insisted that the lady thought I was calling her a fat one, not the smoothie bowl. I was mortified, but couldn't get myself to go in and clarify it with her, so we drove away, and now my husband will periodically say, "She's a fat one," to me and crackle as I shrink in horror. I am further mortified by the fact that we literally have not seen her working since, and I seriously hope it wasn't because of that incident. Oh my god. I do think this one is unfortunately a little bit more of an indictment on the lady's mindset more than it really is a mess up from OP's part. Maybe OP could have had better situational awareness to realize how it might have come across, but that lady chose to jump to the conclusion that somebody would really walk into the smoothie shop, go right up to her and go, "Ooh, she's a fat one." Like, is OP really at fault for not being a little bit more clear about what they said there? Learning is the best commented, "Once I knocked on my boss's door and asked if he had a sec to talk. He replied, 'I have lots of secs.' We paused. I smiled and said, 'Aight,' and then we moved on. He was a good boss." Cbot replied, "I was sitting a desk away from a coworker who was on his headset talking to another coworker who was remote. The two of them were good friends and we joked that they had a bromance going. I could only hear the part of the conversation that the guy in the room of me was having, which started out like, 'Hi, pause. Oh, I'll give you lots of sex.' I stopped the conversation I was having and turned to the guy like, "What did you just say?" He thought about it, realized how it sounded, and died laughing. Our next story is, today I messed up by stealing an Amazon Echo Dot. Obligatory occurred today, sorry if it's too long. As part of my job, I attended a conference as a speaker. This is the kind of event where people network in between sessions and the kind with promotional merch from sponsors. As soon as I arrived, I noticed that one of the tech giants had a table with some of their merch and an Amazon Echo Dot. That's neat, I thought. Throughout the day, I visited the different tables and grabbed some of the trinkets they had. Stickers, a keychain, some funny socks, yet the Echo Dot remained there. I noticed that periodically they would restock their supply of things people took as they chatted. Near the end of the day, I gathered the courage to speak to the rep that was manning the table with the Echo Dot. I really have no use for an Echo Dot, but I recently got a digital doorbell and it works with the Alexa ecosystem, and I thought it might be cool to get the doorbell to ring upstairs, especially if it was for free. I didn't want to miss up on the chance of taking home another piece of Demotica just because I didn't ask. I said, "Hey, what do you have to do to get the Echo Dot?" The rep said, "Oh, it's easy. All I need is your business card." I said, "Oh, I don't have a business card." The rep replied, "No problem. Do you have LinkedIn?" I said, "Yes, I do." Spends a good 2.5 minutes trying to log in, resetting my password, figuring out the two-factor authentication, all the while speaking to the nice rep. I said, "Here's the QR." The rep says, "Great," and scans it. At this moment, someone came over and told the rep that they needed to go somewhere else. The rep got up from the table, gave me 2 thumbs up and said, "Okay, you're all good," and just left me there alone, the Echo Dot on the table. I stood there for what must have been a good 55 seconds thinking about what to do next. Is that it? The Echo Dot is mine? The next speaker was just starting in the room next door, so I thought, I guess I'm good to take it home. I better get back to the session. I grabbed the little guy from the table and quickly found a seat at the auditorium. The Echo Dot sat on the chair next to me. While the speaker was presenting, I noticed that some of the organizers were hastily walking up and down the aisles, looking around the crowd. A sense of doom started to stir within me. One of them quickly paused in the aisle next to me but didn't say anything. They left. Whew, I'm in the clear, I thought. I was not. When the speaker finished their presentation, a very nice person, one of the organizers, sat down next to me. This is when I knew I had freaked up. She very nicely and politely explained that the Echo Dot that was occupying the seat next to me, she pointed to it, was the prize to a very special draw they were going to have at the end of the session. She then very nicely asked if it was okay if she took it back to the main area. Again, she pointed at it. I quickly grabbed it from the seat and gave it to her. I couldn't get it away from me fast enough. I apologized, but not a lot of words came out of me. I was fully aware of the freak up. I wanted the earth to swallow me. If I wasn't next on the roster of speakers, I would have bolted from the event and moved to Finland, probably. To be fair, if it was for a very special draw, they should have mentioned that at some point in the exchange, especially at some point during the 2.5 to 3 minutes of OP trying to finagle their LinkedIn login. And also, I can't imagine the conferences have a very big funding pool or anything, but the very special draw is an Amazon Echo Dot. It's like a $35 item. Like, I guess I'll throw my business card into the ring or whatever, but like, Danny C990 commented, "For what it's worth, my company hosted a conference several years ago. One of the items in the goodie bag we handed out at registration contained an Echo Dot. I also attended a conference a couple of years ago and got an Echo Dot in the goodie bag. Completely understand why you thought it was yours, and it's the rep's fault for not being clear about a drawing." Sith Lord 77 commented, "Very special draw? An Echo Dot? Dang, I thought my conferences sucked." Our next story is, today I messed up by following a stranger home when I was 5. This was a long time ago. I was in kindergarten, so I'm 5. This was a different time. Cell phones didn't exist. When class is over, the kids are on their own. There's no supervision. School just let out and I'm outside waiting for my mom. It's gloomy out and looks like it'll rain any minute. I guess my parents never had that conversation with me about stranger danger and not going with people I don't know. This lady walks by me and goes, "Hey, I know your mom." I didn't recognize her, but she's like, "It's cold out, it might rain. You should wait at my house." Very insistent, so I end up going with her. She didn't live far from the school. She dropped me off, gave me a snack, and then went back out. My mom had gotten to the school and was starting to panic because she couldn't find me, but then this lady showed up and took my mom to her house. I was lucky because she actually knew my mom. I could have just let myself get kidnapped. It's weird though because it's been decades since then, and I still have no idea who that lady was. I don't know what decade this took place in, but I remember back when I was a little kid in kindergarten, first, second grade, I went to an elementary school that had houses literally like right next to the school. I mean, for a lot of kids, it's just an expectation that school's over and you just kind of wander off and go find your house. That said, OP wasn't even like a walk home school kid. They were waiting for their mom and somebody else came by and just took them away. I'm gonna hope it was like some school staff that's doing something that they really shouldn't have, and just be glad for OP that it worked out. Tired and Emotional commented, "Yeah, it's crazy. About 50 years ago, yes, I'm that old, I was walking to my friend's house with him as his mother taught me piano. We were in the same class at primary school. This car pulls up and this guy offers us a lift. My pal jumps in and I follow. This guy drives down the road and doesn't stop at my pal's house, but does a short distance later after my pal yells at him to stop. We get out and I ask who that was. My pal didn't know. I wrongly assumed he knew the driver. I felt sick to my stomach as I had stranger danger drummed into me by my parents. So much so that I didn't tell them as I was terrified of getting into trouble. This random guy could have driven off with 2 8-year-olds and no one would have been the wiser, especially since we lived in a rural area. It just goes to show that even when kids know the dangers, they do stupid things or just do what an adult tells them. Our next story is, today I messed up by accidentally sleeping in my neighbor's bed. It wasn't anything crazy, we just did some bar hopping and had a few too many tequila shots. I usually don't drink much, so by midnight, I was basically running on autopilot. I called an Uber, got dropped off, and stumbled up the stairs in my apartment building and let myself in. At least I thought I did. The door wasn't locked, which I thought was weird, but in my drunk brain, I figured I probably forgot to lock it earlier. I went straight to the bedroom, threw my clothes on the floor, and crashed. A couple hours later, I woke up to someone screaming like they saw a murder. I jumped up, and there was this woman standing in the doorway holding a lamp like she was about to whack me. Turns out I wasn't in my apartment. I'd walked into my neighbor's 1 floor down. The layouts are identical, so drunk me didn't notice a thing. Apparently her roommate had just left the door unlocked after coming home, and I just wandered in. She called the cops. I had to explain to 2 very unimpressed officers that I wasn't trying to break in, I was just an idiot who can't handle tequila and doesn't know which floor she lives on. Luckily, my upstairs neighbor vouches for me, but it was still a super humiliating walk of shame that I've ever done. I'm gonna be honest, I thought for sure OP was going to end this with they got some kind of charge, they had to spend the night in the drink tank or something, like OP was wrestled out of there and breathalyzed on the spot and taken in. Luckily for OP, they probably got some cops that probably didn't want to go to those lengths or didn't want to bother. Asconia commented, "So this is kind of how I met my college roommates / best friends 20 years later. I was in college, lived in an apartment complex mostly filled with students. I am terrible with keys, so I'd always leave a window open that I could shimmy through in the rare case my flatmates weren't home. It was art college, so people, in particular my mate Ian, would often crash at each other's houses. One Friday, I came home from a night out to find that my flatmate, responsible person that they were, had freaked off home for the weekend and locked everything. No worries, I thought. I'll go crash on Ian's couch and he'll be cool with it. So that's what I did. I wasn't totally sure which place was his, but I knew it was on the 3rd floor and he always left the door open, so I was pretty confident. I went in, saw a couch and a blanket, and passed out. I woke up being prodded by a beautiful girl who was definitely not Ian. I blearily said, "Hey," and then "freak," and then "I'm so sorry," followed by "I will go now, I'm not a pervert." They, Rebecca, were incredibly cool and said they recognized me from college and no rush, sleep more. Fast forward a few hours and I'm woken up again by Rebecca with a cup of hot tea. I actually woke up this time and began apologizing profusely. She said no worries. Then I realized I had no way back into my house until Monday when my flatmate came back. She, being a legend, said no worries, and long story short, we became best friends and lived together for years. Ian came over that night. He lived next door, I was so close, and we all had a good laugh at my expense, and I lived with those girls for 3 years. Still in touch today. Our next story is, today I messed up by trying to compliment my girlfriend's dad. My girlfriend, 26-year-old female, invited me to dinner with her family for the first time. Her dad is this big, intimidating dude with arms like tree trunks and a very serious face. I, 28-year-old male, was nervous but trying to be polite and conversational. So when he walked in wearing this button-up that looked brand new, I said, "Hey, nice shirt. It really brings out your chest." The second it left my mouth, my soul left my body. His wife choked on her drink, my girlfriend turned bright red, and her dad just slowly raised an eyebrow and said, "Thanks, I guess?" I tried to clarify with, the color, it brings out your, strength? Which somehow made it sound way worse. The rest of dinner was me pretending to chew invisible food, while everyone else tried not to laugh. Well, hey, at least for OP's girlfriend, there's no worries about whether or not their partner likes their parents. OP's made it really clear that they really like their girlfriend's father. It makes me wonder though, would it have saved it in that moment if OP just reeled all the way back and said, "Okay, look, I was just trying to say something nice. It blurted out that way. I was not trying to hit on you, sir." Unless it's, winning me points. Changeling CT commented, "Dear Reddit, is my boyfriend just dating me because he has a crush on my dad? Last night." Discord the Lunatic replied, "Dear Reddit, I think my daughter's new boyfriend might be gay. Pretty sure he made a pass at me last night." Our next story is, today I messed up by congratulating my neighbor's boyfriend on helping his daughter move in. So I finally met the new neighbor today when I was bringing in packages. She was outside with an older guy. We chatted a bit, told her about myself and Bite, my cat, and the building. She told me about her job at a restaurant and how she usually has late shifts, etc. It was all normal and sweet, and then I said something like, "It's nice your dad's helping you move in." She blinked, didn't say anything for a second, kind of froze but not necessarily in a mad way. He, the older guy whom I thought was the father, laughed and said, "Boyfriend, actually." I tried to save it by saying, "Wow, that's so cool," which made it about 100 times worse. Like as if she was dating like an astronaut or something. I wasn't sure if there was anything I should be saying, or I started saying something like, "I'm sure you'll love the building," but I ended up retreating into my apartment mid-sentence. Now I'm avoiding eye contact every time I walk past their door. Yeah, if I were OP, I would just shut down that whole thing. If they want to reach out, sure, I'll be cordial. But from that point on, I'm just gonna try to act like you don't exist and hope you do the same towards me. Unless it's winning me points. Line Between Borders commented, "The opposite happened to a friend of mine. Her dad was helping her move, and someone thought they were in an age gap relationship. But yeah, couples with very noticeable age gaps will probably get that from time to time. We don't know what we're not told. Though I guess in the future you can ask or wait until it comes up organically to avoid these kinds of situations." Sorcha Roizen replied, "I went on a trip to Italy with my father, and all the Italians thought he was my husband." Our next story is, today I messed up by using Vaseline. My whole family has gotten sick over the last 2 weeks, and I'm the last to catch and recover from it. One of those illnesses that make you keep tissues always at the ready. So after a couple of days of wiping my nose, it starts getting really chapped. My lips don't feel great either, so I go and grab some Vaseline. I have a big tub in by the medicine cabinet. A couple more days go by, and I'm occasionally rubbing Vaseline on my lips and nose, though not too often, because I know my skin needs to breathe too. But today, I start noticing my nose is getting more sore, not less. Not too concerned because I'm still pretty sick. But today I went through less tissues than ever, and my nose is still getting worse. After dinner, I'm touching it and it feels a little swollen with a bump or two. Then it dawns on me. Oh no, the Vaseline. I've been using it for months. So has my daughter. We use it most often when we have chapped lips, and we both get cold sores. I personally don't use Vaseline when I know I have a cold sore, but I can't always tell right away, and I have no idea how careful my daughter is. I go to check in the bathroom mirror, and unless I am mistaken, I indeed have a cold sore forming on my nose. Why me? I cry to the sky. I'm gonna be honest, I hate this story. I straight up hate this one. I just don't like the tale of getting nose cold sores accidentally. And I would imagine just in general, if multiple people are using Vaseline for chapped lips, you may want individual containers. Like, not trying to judge, but I definitely wouldn't be the type of person to share chapstick. Beer Horse commented, least fun way to get herpes. Kevin K responded, but best way to get it from your daughter. Our next story is, today I messed up by possibly submitting myself topless to a video job interview. So today I did a video job interview, meaning I record videos using the program the job I applied for sent me, answering prompts. There was a practice section, so I chose to use that to test the program. It let me record up to 2 more times. For my first attempt, I realized I didn't like the shirt I was wearing, so I clicked retake, got up, changed my shirt, so I was totally bare-chested for a hot minute there. When I sat down, I saw that it was recording the second practice video. It was only a 1-minute video, so the timer stopped and the video stopped. I didn't even get a chance to check the video. It came up with a submit button, but before I could click or delete anything, the page reloaded and the practice attempts disappeared. What do I do? Was it actually sent to the company? Surely not, since it was practice, right? So I'm going to lean towards it probably didn't send it, but you can't really be sure. I'm just assuming that because when OP pressed stop or whatever and it went to that page with the submit button and then it just refreshed and went away, that it basically was making sure you couldn't have sent it. But that's a very optimistic assumption. In reality, who knows? Selfster2412 commented, give them a ring and ask to speak to whoever deals with the video interviews. Ask if they've received any information or videos from you. If they say no, you're all good. If they say yes, explain it contains explicit content, or say a child walked in during the recording and it accidentally sent, or that there was a technical issue and you would like to resend your interview and have the previous one deleted, or move country, change your name and have plastic surgery and never apply for another job again. DJ Lunacy commented, your interview might have went chest up in the best way possible. Our next story is, today I messed up by telling my niece her favorite YouTuber fell off a cliff. My 8-year-old niece was visiting and would not stop talking about some Minecraft YouTuber she's obsessed with. She was going on and on about his new series. Trying to be the cool uncle, I said, oh yeah, I used to watch him, but honestly I think his content really fell off a cliff a few years ago. Her face immediately went white. Her bottom lip started trembling. He died? She whispered. I realized my mistake. In her world, fell off a cliff is not a metaphor for a decline in quality. It's a literal tragic death for a cartoon character. I spent the next hour trying to explain the concept of a metaphor to a sobbing child, while frantically pulling up the YouTuber's active channel to prove that he was still alive. She is now convinced I'm a liar who tried to trick her about a man's death. I think at that point, OP should just explain earnestly that they're not lying, that they're not trying to pull a fast one, that it is just a phrase, and that in 10 or 15 years, I am going to remind you of this and you are going to be embarrassed. I mean, what else can you do? At this point, you write it out and you wait for it to be hilarious in hindsight. Chris XL Raider commented, this is so silly. It's not like you did anything wrong, but generally if I'm trying to be cool, I don't say I liked something, only to then say it's not cool anymore. I love X band. Oh, I used to listen to them too, but they're not good anymore. Even if she understood, you'd probably seem more out of touch than anything. Our next story is, today I messed up. I think I Pavloved myself into sleeping with my wife for food. So I'm 34, been married almost 8 years now. I love my wife and our marriage is great. That being said, and without going into too much detail, there are certain things she likes to do in the bedroom which require a certain amount of prep, which honestly I don't always feel like putting in the time and effort into doing. Not that I don't enjoy the act, mind you, I just don't always want to turn it into a whole production. In a seemingly unrelated note, there's a bakery I really love. They make the absolutely best croissants. It's like eating clouds, I swear. But keeping with the theme of me not wanting to make a whole thing of these things, it's located on a narrow street, not within walking distance, and parking is a nightmare. Going there is a commitment. Still, whenever we do go, it's so worth it. We get pastries for the day, some coffee, and a few plain croissants to make croissantwiches later. It's amazing. A while back, my wife went, How about I go get us pastries from the place you like while you prepare and we do the thing? And I agreed because, in my mind, totally worth it. It was practically the best day ever. This became something of a norm for a few months. Unfortunately, the other day when I went to get pastries, I realized I couldn't stop thinking about hooking up. Now, apparently that particular act in my mind is completely tied to those croissants. I genuinely cannot perform the act without craving croissants. And perhaps even worse, I cannot go to the bakery without thinking about hooking up. I'm not gonna say that it ruined either hooking up or croissants for me, but sending my wife out to get the pastries in return for hooking up certainly did backfire. Any guesses in the chat what exactly was going down here? Because I've got an inkling of an idea. To be fair to OP, considering they made it a normal routine, it probably was like the best day ever for the wife too. I mean, I would figure it would have to be if she's willing to go out there to a street that's quite a commitment to go to pick up those pastries, just because it leads into the other thing. Sideways GTS commented, "I wouldn't have pegged you as the Pavlovian type." Chaos Music replied, "It's located on a narrow street, not within walking distance, and parking is a nightmare. Have you gone around back to try and find parking in the rear?" Hungry Hungry 24 replied, "Croissant so good, you're practically pegging for it." But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy story of somebody on Reddit severely messing up, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.